This is our Unconstitutional Awakening program.
Liftoff will start in T-minus 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have ignition.
Brought to you by KD Consulting Redesigned.
Great, man.
Ahoy there, mateys. It's time to set sail on another episode of Unconstitutional Awakening, the podcast. Tonight, you guys, I've got a return guest. He's a very intelligent young man out of Atlanta, Georgia, the surrounding area, not too far from me, actually. And he, if you remember him from last time, Mr. Julian Brown, he is the young man that has figured out microwave pyrolysis, and he is turning plastic trash into usable gasoline. He's had his ups and downs with it, and is self-taught, by the way. Like, this is a very intelligent young man, and he's going places with this. Luis has made mention before in the past about the fact that there are people actually doing this on larger levels and such, but Julian here has figured out how to do it out of trash right in your own backyard. So I see this as being something of much importance. Not only is it recycling the microplastics that Neptune and the rest of us hate so much, but it is also, creating fuel for things. There's more process to get it to go into the gas can for your car, I would say, but some of these older vehicles and things like weed eaters and maybe even four-wheelers and lawnmowers and such, those would be beneficial to run off of these things. And maybe we can hook him up with someone that could advance it even more to where we could run it in our car. And there we go, ladies and gentlemen. We'd have our own gasoline right in our own yard if we needed it, out of something that also comes from the same product. So I thought I've always found him fascinating, and I think he's going places. I think he's a very, very intelligent young man. So he's had some updates and some advancements, and Luis has been talking to him and hooking him up with some people as well. So I'd like to see this guy help change the future. So I hope you guys give him a chance. And as usual, when the episode's done, of course, you guys will be able to find all of his fantastic, information to get back to him at the one place where you can find everything about us as well. And that is, of course, unconstitutionalawakening.com. You guys know how this goes, man. You guys can get over there and check everything out. You can check out stuff about the host. You can chit-chat on the UA social with some of our show guests and even some of our friends. There's a few of our guests and such that have become great friends, and they're totally on that UA social, and you can tag them and ask them questions, man. You can even tag us and ask us questions. We're down to answer. We don't have a problem with it, man. We're always up for it. And the podcast more section gets in depth with a little bit of everything, man, from, like it says, podcasts and more. So you guys make sure you get over there and check out unconstitutionalawakening.com, because that's where you can also find the links to get back to everywhere you can watch us, listen to us, and even listen to us there on the website. I do appreciate each and every one of you, and I know the rest of the crew does as well. So we appreciate when you guys come and, be a part of the show and hang out on the website and stuff like that. I get the awesome notifications and stuff. So I appreciate each and every one of you out there, man. It's the only reason we're doing this is for you, trying to wake up the next group of people and maybe change the world for a better place. There's also a link on there to get to our fantastic merch store where you can get you some of this sweet Unconstitutional Awakening merch, like the shirt I have on tonight. And there's also links to get back to our awesome friends in Liberty, like Kirk Elliott, Peachy Key Creations, Ammo Can Survival, and even Brett Pike over there with Classical Learner and Homeschools Connected. These are all people trying to change the world for a better place and help you invest in yourself. So give them a check out, man. See if there's anything they can do for you. We've got it's an array of people, that's for sure. But you guys can find all that, and you'll be able to find all the links to every guest that we have over there in the podcast and more section. And even on each episode, regardless of where you watch, listen to it, whatever it is, I do share the links to make sure you can get back and find our fantabulous guests that we have on a regular basis. And there's also plenty of links to get back to our social, like Captain Conspiracy and the Freedom Pirates, and where you can find us all on everything from TikTok to Instagram to Twitter and YouTube and more. So you guys make sure you check it out and feel free to interact with us and ask questions and things like that, guys. Conversations are the only way we can change the world. And if you're looking to get a shout out on here, man, just reach out to me. We'll hook you up. We'll get it going. And if you'd like to come on the show and chat, we'll also hook you up. Just reach out and talk. We always love new voices to push thought-provoking conversation to help make the world a better place. So I guess that's enough about the show and all this nonsense. So let's go ahead and get into things tonight, guys. Here we come with Mr. Julian Brown. So how is everyone doing this evening? I'm going to go around the table right quick. Julian, how are you, man? It's been a while since we've talked to you.
Yes, I am doing extravagant.
Awesome, man. I've been watching you, of course, over there on every platform, just growing and continuing your work and continuing to advance your work. And that's why I was like, I gotta get him back on here. And after I heard Luis joined in with you the other week, I was like, I definitely got to get him back on here, because Luis came back with some fantabulous news and shared it on here on the show, actually, with some of the updates you had been doing. So I was like, well, I got to hear it from the source. So that's why we got you back on here tonight, of course. Luis, how you up there doing tonight, bud?
Good.
All right. That's good to hear. Everything good up in New York and whatnot going around?
Not heard of any recent murders, so that's a plus. just child assaulting other adults, because here now kids commit crimes without any issues.
I've heard
a kid committed 4 crimes in a single day.
Listen, I've heard that the kids on 28th Street will pull a knife on you quicker than anything in that area. So. No.
Damn.
Just don't go out at night. NYC, just go out at night without a weapon.
All of New York is a sundown town.
Bandit, how's things over there in the woods, buddy? The woods.
Excellent. Doing good.
Bandit is our friendly neighborhood hobbit, living in the woods.
Man, he's out there trying to be one with Appalachia, man. Like, he's the only one I think here that, aside from me, that doesn't fear the Wendigo. He's like, let's go. Like,
no, I am the same way. Let's go.
Right. I mean, so things down this way have been going good and stuff, and so yeah, man. Let's just jump into it, Julian. Let me get an update, man. How many? I know since the last time we talked, you had one of your machines blow up. And I know you built some more since then and stuff. So
okay. I remember telling you guys that. Yeah. So I was working on my Mark III design, and it had blown up.
Sounded like Iron Man.
Yeah. So then I built my Mark IV since then, because that was back in like July or early August or whatever. Built my Mark IV, got that done near the end of September. Got amazing results from that, It showed me that this technology is scalable and all that. And then when everything was going amazing, I had a fire break out, almost burnt down my house. Fortunately, it didn't. But it did burn down a lot of the reactor. So it's been, unfunctional for the past month. But, I've taken that time to really focus on the other important factors of this, the more background things like patents, getting the team developed website. I got a website now, naturejab.com.
Hey, Julian, take a second, take a few minutes and refresh our viewers what you're doing.
Sure. Okay. So what I do is I'm an innovator of microwave pyrolysis. And what that is it is a device that uses microwave heating to turn plastic waste into fuel. And I've been working on it for 3 years. And I have just recently this year started to really push on social media what I've been doing. And as I was saying before, I'm on my 4th prototype design. Well, actually my 5th now. But I've made up to 4 designs, and we have genuinely turned it into fuel. And we have actually recently run an engine off of the fuel that we've created from plastic, and it has run successfully.
I mean, that in itself is amazing from my end. You know, I mean, you've successfully run things off of it. I've caught you live where you put it in things, and I've seen some of your past videos and stuff. And I mean, yeah, like that's something in its own. You know, I'm amazed by this because just running, you know, small wares like, you know, like a weed eater or my lawnmower or something out here on the property for something like that would be amazing to be able to pick up this plastic trash and turn it into gas for the things that I could use around the house, you know. And I mean, I know you're trying to, right? That would be a dream for a farmer come true, right? I mean,
just the amount of waste this street alone produces.
Oh my God, I've seen the piles of trash piled up in New York City, and it was even worse when the COVID mandates, the vaccine mandates, were hitting the sanitation department there in New York City. I saw streets that the mounds of trash that piled up, bags that piled up.
You know
on
how
the
easy
side.
it would be for me to say to my neighbors, like, "Hey, everybody, dump your plastic trash in my house." They would all just bring it over.
You would have an endless
supply of fuel.
Lord,
I could literally produce gallons and gallons of fuel every single day.
and then you sell it back to everybody. Business.
And see, that is where I think we could get the most use out of something like this would be your major metro areas, because out in the country, you know, that would not work real well for somebody that is becoming self-sustainable. Like when you're out in the woods, you want to stay out in the woods and you're really trying to reuse what you have. You're not going to have a lot of plastic trash. Your major metro areas, you could power entire apartment complexes.
Yep.
Yeah.
With just trash from the streets.
Well, see, Julian, I know you're probably familiar with this. We have the big dump up there in DeKalb County, Georgia, because I know, you know, you're local to me and such. And I don't know if you know this, but it runs a lot off of the methane that the trash itself produces.
That's how most landfills operate. They have their own methane supply, and if you notice, a lot of their vehicles that they use within the landfill actually run on that.
Wow.
And you know, so I mean, that's one way that they're utilizing reusing trash. But the thing that's always, I guess, amazed me about your idea, Julian, is that and this is a big idea that you can find a whole bunch of stuff out there that they're testing. You know, Julian's just smart enough to have figured it out himself. But like you're ridding the world of microplastics and pieces of plastic and plastic floating around. Like I know the rest of you, even though I do live out, you know, kind of away from a lot of things, like, you know, damn, the closest hospital is 30 minutes away. Like you still see that stuff. You know what I'm saying? You see garbage flying around, you see things on the side of the road, and like, as a good Samaritan, there's some of us out there that I know listening and watching and stuff like that, even myself, that you're gonna pick that bottle that you see up, and you're going to put your buggy back and stuff like that. Little simple things, because we're out in the boonies and there's nobody else to really do it. So it's always good for you to just do it yourself. But think about all the trash you could collect in a day. And, you know, people go through some plastic trash. Like, everything's in plastic, and I think you could really utilize this in so many different ways.
Absolutely. And, you know, one of the best advantages of this technology versus, you know, using incinerators, you know, because they turn trash into fuel, is the scale of this. You know, nobody wants to have a giant incinerator built in the middle of Times Square, right? But these reactors can be built at small scales and large scales. So these can be put into certain places. Like maybe they could be on the rooftops of buildings or something in New York, So there's so many different scales to this technology, and it's all controlled and captured, so it's safe.
So I'll say with that is, some people will argue, and this is me going on the other side of, but what you're doing is you're converting it into a fossil fuel, so you're just going to burn it and it'll go into the atmosphere. But the reality is, it's conversion of matter, and we are getting to the point very soon, and you're going to see it, because it's going to, like, once somebody really breaks through, and we're already on a laboratory level, we're close, of converting carbon in the air back into a useful fuel, potentially into graphene. So once we start converting carbon into graphene, it's over. Like, the CO2 problem ceases to exist. This whole agenda of carbon hydrocarbons will go away, because we can just literally recycle it back into a useful material for construction, material for batteries, material for semiconductors, material for houses, material for everything. So turning plastics that are just poisoning everything back into something, because the thing about plastics also is there's a lot of plastics you can't recycle. You talked a little bit about, there's some plastics that it's harder for you to work with, but I don't remember as much, like, what is the limits, but do you have any on that? Do you have any plastics you really can't even use?
Absolutely not. Everything can be used. It's just
so that's an advantage.
Yeah. Some plastics, like let's take PVC, for example, it has chlorine in it. You have to have a special type of filter to catch that chlorine. But in terms of breaking it down, this is the exact same process that Mother Earth uses to make crude oil to begin with. So everything can be broken down.
And all we need to do is properly focus on this. And I'm sure if we properly focus on this technology can be completely viable and mainstreamed in 5 years. Like, purely mainstream, meaning we could start building reactors at a mass scale in just a couple of years.
I mean, what I love about this is like, look at Julian's reactor here, his last reactor that he had, and like,
that's like some shit Tony. Looks like some shit Tony Stark built in a cave.
You're absolutely right,
and it works.
And it works the same. We have the same thing going on right here.
Pretty much.
But like when you look at this compared to the size of the ones that they're trying to do it with, on the larger level and stuff, don't get me wrong, there's quite a big difference, and this is something that you could easily have off in the side of your garage. You know what I'm saying? Like this, or outside for safety, but you know what I'm saying? But like just right outside, your house. It doesn't take up much space at all. Clearly,
it will no longer be recycling. Hey kids, go throw your plastic in the recycling. It'll be kids, go throw your plastic in the reactor, so we'll have more power.
And let's be real.
You know what I mean? That is where we want to get to.
Let's be real though.
Community power. What is that? Like,
let's be real though. The system for recycling completely failed and is a joke. Like, they don't.
It's always been that way.
It's the scam, because remember, garbage was controlled by mafias for decades. Yeah. And it's kind of okay. So in New York,
it still is.
Commercially, it still is. So in New York, commercial trash pickups are mafia based. Regular civilian is state based control through private entities like Waste Management. But if you think Waste Management is not affiliated to mafia groups, you're naive. So that's the thing is, regardless, the only real competitors to him are those companies.
Well, but something like what he's doing would be great to go hand in hand with something like the Ocean Cleanup Project. Once we get things on board, we need to get. I can contact certain people, but you gotta get all these things done. And then I know some people to get you in touch with these people. These people. You know what I'm saying?
He knows people who knows people. Speaking of somebody connected to the mafia, I know people who know people. But no, seriously though. Seriously though. The one thing that always crosses people's minds when you bring up stuff like this is we all know what happened to, and yes, I always got to turn something, we can turn anything into a conspiracy theory here, okay? We all know what happened to the people working on the hydrogen cars, right? All right.
Yes, but I'll give you another thing. That cleanup that company, that entity, that was started by a 16-year-old.
Damn.
Yes,
I'll
but
give
if
you,
you start-
I'll give you that person will love to talk to you.
Oh,
if you start-
I gotta talk to him.
If you
Yeah,
start
he's now
getting
like
real,
20 something, but yeah.
if you start getting this thing out into the public and the wrong people look at this the wrong way, like, hey, they're going to be taken away from the fossil fuel industry.
But at the same time, in the end of the day, this is already like some elements of the technology are already publicly available. So it's like an unstoppable force.
Yes.
You can't, there's he has to just lawyer up, which he
So what the only thing that they'd be doing is delaying the inevitable. If they decided to stop Julian, the only thing they're going to do is delay the inevitable.
Yeah,
Like, if you go on my website, the first thing my website literally says is pyrolysis, the next step for humanity. This is what's going to happen because this is the next step that society needs to get to the next level. We need to recycle our waste truly. You know what I'm saying? Because
converting matter.
So much energy into making these things just to throw them away. We have to recover that energy. That's just a period.
Let's get our power back out of it.
Exactly.
You know, because unlike this renewable energy thing that is, you know, trying to get a foothold in our lives right now, and it's totally garbage. I mean, what they're trying to do at large scale applications of like wind and solar, the wind turbines right now, they will never ever produce enough energy or the same energy that it took to create them in the first place. You know what I mean? Right. The amount of fossil fuels and electricity that it took to produce these wind generators, you're never going to get it out of them in their lifetime. This, on the other hand, has the ability to get, you know, so much more fold of energy than what you put into it.
Yep. Exactly. And I did want to mention that because that was one of the big things with the Mark IV reactor. One of the big points that, or the purpose of it was to gain some data on the energy input, energy output. And I'm going to say this, and this might sound unscientific, but I'll break it down. So basically, out of that Mark IV reactor, we got 199% efficiency, meaning that we got double the energy output than the energy we put in. Now, how does that work? Because there's a law of thermodynamics. Think about it like this, right? Plastic is so energy dense that once you start the process of breaking it down, it almost self-sustains itself to a point where it takes less energy to break it down than all the energy that's coming out. It's kind of like how when we pump for crude oil out of the ground, that takes energy to do that. But obviously, when we're pumping that out the ground, that's more energy coming out the ground than what we're pumping.
It becomes a self-sustaining reaction.
Exactly.
You don't have to add to it to keep it going, right? Pretty much just
continues. And on top of that, you know, as the heat in the reactor, as the reactor gets hotter, right, the microwave efficiency gets even more. So the hotter the plastic gets, the more the plastic absorbs microwaves. And that's what we want to maximize because, you know, the microwave heating is so much more efficient than any other type of heating. So when that is the most maximized, the efficiency just goes through the roof.
How high do you think you can get the efficiency, at least in your at a theoretical level?
Well, my goal for the next one, Mark V, is to get efficiency up to 400%. And that's because when we're getting 200% efficiency, that's the output of all the products combined, the gaseous product, the oil product, and the solid coal product. And, you know, when you, even with 200%, you know, when we convert those back into electricity, there's going to be so many losses. It might not even break even in terms of electricity. But if we get up to 400%, when we convert those back, we'll have a surplus of energy, even after conversion back to electricity, if that's the route you wanted to go down.
You know, and you know, we keep pointing at like the energy uses, of course, and stuff like that, but honest to God, there's another big factor that I think is a very big pro for this whole situation is the more people that we can teach about it, the more people we get on about it. This is also a source of economic activity. I mean, you know, you're looking at other people creating facilities, creating jobs, creating more. I mean, for sure, more things that people have to learn, but I'm a firm believer in like apprenticeship programs. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
the best way to hand down a trade or hand down knowledge is to pull someone under your wing, basically, and show them the things that you know too. And I've done many hands-on jobs in my life, and that's the best way I've always learned, is just being kind of thrown into it. One day I'm a plumber, next day I'm an electrician, and the following day I'm laying frame. You never know what it is, and something like this, it's always fascinated me at how simple it is, and the fact that you could just use scrap microwaves and stuff just to get that part of it going and stuff, and the way that you have built your system that I was showing earlier and stuff like that. You've compacted everything, because when you get to looking at the ones that they're talking about on these large levels, they're I know I mentioned this a minute ago, but they're nowhere near as the same compact. So say your Mark 5 happens to be the one that hits the money, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you decide that that's the one that you're going to market and sell. Well, you just created a handful of jobs for people, because more people you're gonna need more hands.
Anytime you're creating energy, you're creating wealth.
Yes, absolutely.
Energy creation is wealth.
Yes.
What does the United States have? An abundance of trash.
That we do.
That
we do.
Like literally mountains
everywhere.
So
many of your parks are built on top of it. You don't even know it.
If you focus just on e-waste, if you as you grow, if you focus on e-waste and you focus on also taking extraction, because for example, Apple, if you it's fascinating, look up a video of Apple's recycling process, because they show you how they break it apart and then they start to disassemble chemically different parts of it to then extract. They were showing multiple bins of how the machines break apart the things and they start putting them in different bins, because the Apple's objective, which is actually absolutely brilliant if they achieve it, is by 2030 they want to be net zero. And by net zero, meaning they're using their own things to build more things. And Apple's powerful enough to do it. And it makes economic sense to do it as well. Because
the exact number Luis was looking for is that the U.S. produces 12% of the planet's trash, only being 4% of the world's population.
Jeez, man. That is crazy.
Puerto Rico, where I come from, has a really, really, really bad trash problem. I could sell this to anybody over there. Problem is the government's so corrupt that they'll never accept any of it.
Yeah, and you know what? Speaking of e-waste, Jim Bob, I just sent you a video I had posted on Instagram where I had put e-waste in my Mark IV reactor.
That's what I was talking about.
Yeah, we were able to recover the metals out of it, and at the same time, get rid of all the potentially toxic parts, the plastic parts of it. The resins and all that.
I would like to pull this up for everybody to see. So
in New York, they charge you for e-waste.
Do you need me to email it to you?
Nope, I got it right here.
All right.
In New York, they charge you for e-waste. Imagine if we could just get rid of all of it.
That's crazy.
So check this out.
Audio's out.
Forms of trash, because we don't know what the heck. Guys, we are changing the world day by day. I just put e-waste in my plastic to fuel reactor that shoots microwaves at everything. And mind you, e-waste is one of the most polluting forms of trash, because we don't know what the heck to do with it. You know what I'm saying? It's hard to recover everything. It's so mixed together. Guess what? I put it in there. Look what I got out. Look, I got all the metals. I got all the inorganic, all the organic stuff turned into fuel. I mean, goodness gracious. This has single-handedly solved a huge issue in my freaking backyard. Imagine this at a big scale. Imagine this at the right scale. I mean, absolutely impeccable. Absolutely brilliant. What more is there to bloody say? Turned e-waste into fuel. Ain't got all the metals out. Who can say anything to me? Guys, we are changing the world day by day.
Could you explain what is left behind, so that makes more sense what you're looking at?
Yeah, okay, so what's left behind is purely the inorganic parts of the e-waste. So you saw me pulling apart some metal things, all those foils, the metal part, and then those boards that were left over, that's pure fiberglass right there. So all the plastic, all the resins, all the paint, all the organic parts made of plastic and all that are done, and all that stuff is inert material. And also for a second in that video, it showed that I got an oil out of e-waste as well. So yeah, it's very valuable.
Yes, no, I found this really interesting article that I've brought up a couple times while we've been talking here that kind of goes over some stuff, and I'm going to say right now it's definitely a mainstream media article written from the perspective of somebody who doesn't seem to believe in it all that well. He does bring up the good points, how you can get hydrogen, diesel, and other hydrocarbons out of the entire thing. And he's going over the pros and cons. And I was sitting here looking at the cons, actually kind of laughing, because the first thing he said was talking about,
possible
other
source of emissions.
Yeah, possible source of emissions. And I was like, well, we've already debunked that. And then he was talking about further technological development. And I'm like, and reading what he had to say about it, I'm like, well, my boy Julian here is on the way to defeating these technological issues that they're talking about here. And then they're also, talking about the concerns for stability. But again, I really think that if we can have somebody kind of master this technology like you're working on doing, sir, that we could overcome these three fallacy ideals that they're trying to, shoot it down with. Because if on a smaller level, on a larger level, whichever route we ended up going with it, you could make so much difference with just this. Like, yeah, I mean, you guys mentioned it earlier, talking about like solar power and wind power and nuclear energy, even, just all different alternative forms of energy. But like adding this into the mix, you know what I'm saying? You've got your, think about how much self-sustainability you could get. I'm going to disagree with what Bandit said earlier in the show and be like, I don't know. I think out on the farm, this would be something fantastic to have.
I was going to say with in South America or in other parts of the world where the fuel is super expensive, that's it. Their market's really easy. You know how much it costs per gallon in France? It can cost you $10 a gallon.
The thing is, it's like out where you've got large farms, you're going to have to bring the trash and the plastic and everything to them.
You know how much trash is on a farm?
Because they have all the bags for all their feed that,
Yeah, but that's not that I don't think that in and of itself would be enough to power
on a small farm.
I'm talking like large scale farms consume a lot of energy.
I'm not even trying to look at it in the route of powering the farm. I'm looking at it in the route of the production of the oil and gas, being able to use it in like farm equipment.
Tractors burn more than what you could get. I'm looking at that would power cities, which in the U.S. seem to be the most pollution in the air are in your large metro areas. Right. I do think this is more viable in your large cities than out in the country.
And it's a cleaner source of energy, because what's cleaner? Recycling plastic or extracting it from the earth or converting it from another source? Like,
yeah.
I think this combined with fossil fuels would be game changer. Like,
right.
We could do away with that bullshit green energy,
Yeah.
Speaking on that article, I sent you a research paper, Jim Bob. But basically, you could pull it up.
Yeah.
If we're talking about emissions, because people all the time want to say that to me. Okay, you're great. You're trading plastic in the fuel, but it's emitting CO2. Well, here's the thing: when plastic is left in the environment, in the ocean and landfills, it emits methane and ethane and ethylene. Far worse greenhouse gases than CO2, and that's just when it's sitting there. So I'm like, if it's going to emit these things, let's at least recover that and use it to power the things of our world. And on top of that, when we burn the fuel, we're only releasing CO2. We're not releasing methane and ethylene, which are far worse. So it's like, It's doing it anyway. We're just using it to our advantage.
Thanks to things like catalytic converters
Yeah.
that block those chemicals that you're speaking of.
Right, and you know what? Methane and ethylene are actually, they're flammable, they're fuels, and they are components that we get out of this reaction, and guess what? We burn them as a fuel, and then they break down into just CO2 and water vapor versus when they're just left down in the environment, they don't break down. They go up into the air as that. So we're basically, just like how landfills create the methane, they capture it. If they don't capture that methane to burn it, it just goes up into the air. It
just smells horrible.
Yeah, straight up.
That's this. There's so much here that the way that I believe I look at it the same way you are, Julian, and even Luis and stuff too, and Bandit's on the subject tonight. Like, this is more beneficial, I think, for a lot of us moving forward in so many ways. Like, not just helping actually get rid of the plastic trash that we've got everywhere, because we had it bad enough, and then we had to start leaving masks everywhere now too. There seems to be an endless supply, and things like that ocean cleanup and the fact that we're 12% of the trash on the planet. Like, it's I think that it would be a good change for America just in general. We could do something about those giant mountains of trash that we're seeing on a constant. We could do something about the filth and stuff.
So that's the thing. And I wanted to ask you, Julian, what do you see about textiles, like clothing? What's your view on that? Is there any way to extract anything of value from textiles?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
What can you extract from textiles?
Because clothing has a lot of synthetic plastic
first
fibers.
of all, the synthetic ones for sure. Like all of the green brands, like what's that name of that brand that was supposedly donating all his money, but in reality it's just a tax loophole? Oh, Patagonia. So you can take all that Patagonia clothing that's essentially plastic, and then you can put it into the machine. But what about cotton-based? Like, what about these semi-organic clothings? Can you do anything with that?
That is my favorite part about this technology. It's not limited to what the organic matter is, as long as it's organic matter. If you want to get oil, you need to put in plastic or rubber or other hydrocarbon-based things. But if you want to get natural gas from it, anything will give you natural gas. You can
convert textiles into natural gas.
Anything, I'm telling you. I have a video on my Instagram. I'll send it to Jim Bob. I put food waste in there. Natural gas.
That by itself, the mountains of clothing. Obviously you have to raise the efficiency for natural gas, and then you would have to probably go through some filtration to just clean the natural gas. But
I already have the filters.
Then you've already done it. And that's the thing. How has been your work with the filtering and distillation process? Because I know you've been refining that because you couldn't work on the other things. So you've been refining that. So that's been really cool.
Yeah, my filtering process. System? Okay, so let me send this food video to Jim Bob. Okay, so my filtering system, I have had to pretty much master ever since the reactor been running, because we want to make sure that we're releasing clean, or not even releasing rather, but creating clean fumes and all that. So the filtering system is really composed of whatever we're putting in there. So like if we're putting in like rubber has sulfur in it. So we want our filters to have some type of metal like copper or iron, so it can react with that to form iron sulfide. If we're putting in something like PVC, we want to have a bed of potassium hydroxide to react with that, So it's really dependent on what you have in there. But in general, the filters I always use is some type of metal like copper or iron. And then I also use activated carbon to catch any potential organic things. So that's how the filter works. That pretty much will work for most things. In terms of distillation, I've been mastering that currently. Another video on my Instagram more recently shows
what's our food waste here in the United States?
I'll look that up in a moment. I want to play this video.
It's a big amount.
Huge amount. Huge.
I think in some categories it's like half.
It's crazy. It is nonsense, man.
Basically, you've got an endless supply of
energy. And Julian just broke the system. Once he becomes truly mainstream, he accidentally broke the whole system.
Duplication glitch.
Oops,
Food
he saved
into
the world.
Load it into the reactor.
Should have put that.
Anything can go in and make fuel. Anything. After turning it on, the food breaks down into a flammable vapor. It is captured in yoga balls, then compressed. Now, let's cook some food. With food. We'll pop some corn for Chef Boyar Ramsey. Yum, fresh meat.
No, I love it. Like, you know, and I mean that's another step with your device there. You know what I'm saying? Like we're not just making things out of plastic trash. You're making things out of food waste, and I'm assuming this is food waste. We could use things like yard waste and
what people really, I think the biggest question somebody is going to have when viewing this is, does this have the potential to power a car?
Yeah. He just did distillation, gasoline distillation, didn't you?
Oh yeah, let me send you that video, Jim.
Yeah, exactly. Let's go over and go gasoline.
Because this is the next step, guys, and that's a great question, Bandit. Because we are getting so close to doing that. I'm so excited for when that day comes. So,
well, because people have anybody who doesn't know the slightest bit about what you're talking about, for those of us who have a little bit of understanding, we can look at the other applications this has. But a majority of people who are going to look at this and go, I have no idea what this guy's doing.
Yep.
Oh, I can power your car with it.
But can it power my car?
Right, and that's one of the biggest questions I always get. That
that's what they want to know. Yeah, that's what they want to know.
How do you ensure the octane? So I'm imagining you have the chemistry know-how on the concept of how you raise the flammability. Kind of, it's the simplest way of summarizing octane.
It's like proofing an alcohol.
Yeah. So how have you, like, have you been able to test to a degree what's your octane rating that you've been able to output?
Yeah, testing octane is a lot more complex than
that's why I'm asking. I know it's hard.
Octane is not the flammability. Octane is actually kind of the opposite of flammability. It's compressibility before it becomes before it ignites. So, but here's the good thing, right? Regardless of whatever my octane is pretty easy to boost. We already add octane boosters to regular gasoline as is. Ethanol was an octane booster. There's other things. That's not my issue at all. My issue is, can we make the gasoline?
Yeah. Right. Let's hit it.
It's dirty gas.
Or it looks like gasoline that you get at the cheap gasoline place.
Gas you get it in the Mideast.
And then I got this other video.
There it goes with the distilling and stuff. I mean, that's a great next step to learn, you know, and it's not hard to learn how to distill anyway. So
because we all know where we all understand the possibilities of this and where this could lead. We are humbled to catch you at the early stages so we could have you on our little show and promote you before this becomes something big.
Before the world takes you to the next stage.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate you guys, being real ones. And I will always be available and be glad to come on. It doesn't matter where I'm at, at what stage.
Nice.
Where, and that's the thing. We're not rocket scientists.
So here's you running a weed eater with me?
Yes. Empty. Barely any fume left in there. Not enough to start it on its own, all right? So, plastiline, gasoline made from plastic. Let's go ahead, put it in.
I love you named it plastiline.
All right.
I do too, bro. That's so
There we
great.
go. It's in.
This has some serious Road Warrior, Mad Max Road Warrior shit, man.
And I put this on full choke. Pull it a couple times. If it doesn't start, we'll just take it off choke, maybe half choke, run it. Let's see. Let's see. Oh yeah, baby! Oh yeah, baby! You heard, baby! You heard! Let's go! Let's go! You heard that? Hold up! Let's go, baby! You heard that? Real talk!
And bro, I think absolutely amazing.
So good.
Just imagine how great you felt the moment it fired up. You know?
Oh yeah.
Like
Was that really
yeah.
your first test?
I did a test before that, but that was my first test on live stream.
Oh, you
That's
were
a big-
live stream.
Yeah, that was a clip from a
Oh,
live
fuck.
stream. That's a whole other level of
Nah.
being scary, especially when I
No,
cranked it like 5 times and it wasn't catching. I was like, oh shit.
I think
awesome.
where I think where you could get like the most startup for this is communities that are interested in becoming more and more self-sustaining. You know what I mean? Off-grid living, because the applications for this in that aspect is very strong.
Yeah.
Also got a GoFundMe out there going on, you guys. If anybody out there interested would like to invest into helping on this matter, like, and you know, dude, listen. Even like I told you last time, I'm still totally all about when you need some more microwave parts. You just let me know. We've got a stack of them again. So
Okay. Yeah. And you're in Georgia too. That's perfect.
yeah, that's because I believe in this. Like I think this. I'm definitely somebody that's behind you, and I'm looking at this and going, this is a good
100%.
future. This is a future. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
And-
And with what you
And
were
not
saying,
only
Matt-
that, it's you're doing two things at the same time, man. We can clean up the environment a little bit, and we can
And
get
we have
something in
fuel
return.
source.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
can get a fuel source in return. Like with recycling, you don't feel like you're getting anything in return, man.
Right.
Because you're not.
You're getting
really.
more plastic.
Yeah, because with
What the
this,
hell?
we're getting rid of something. Microplastics is like more of a danger to your health than people realize. I mean,
So,
the infants are born with that stuff in their fucking lungs already.
Hey man.
I mean, I even thought about right now, like the only element that makes it a lot easier, of course, is you sometimes cut up some of the plastic to make it easier for the reactor.
Mm-hmm.
But I was thinking it's like off the gas alone, you can get that done. So
Yeah.
with the energy the reactor's producing, you can get all of the processes
Yep.
to be done.
Because we're like I said, we're already operating over 100% efficiency.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you can take a portion of that energy just to crush it.
Yep, exactly. And yeah, what you were saying, Bandit, about the off-grid stuff, I feel like off-grid, this is more of a thing for the waste management aspect of it, you know, more than anything. But it just happens that not only are you getting rid of your waste in a safe way, but you're also getting energy out. So
Yep, absolutely, man. This is something that can do a lot of good. It really can. In more ways than one, you know.
Right. And you know, people often do ask me, one of the critiques of people, well, it's not even a critique because it's not true, but people will say, well, you just made that gasoline out of plastiline, but it has microplastics in it. And that's just from an ignorance of the chemistry side of things. We're basically distilling the plastic, right? So by the time it becomes an oil like that, it cannot be microplastics because that oil or that vapor is literally formed from plastic chemically breaking down. So it's not even possible. The only possible place for microplastics to be is in the end carbon or coal product at the end of it, right? And that is unlikely because that coal product that's the seed of all of the heat. And microwaves penetrate that carbon so much that it's so hot that I personally doubt it. But you know, it's definitely not in the vapor. And
Later
And
on,
on a positive note,
So you'll get.
and on a positive note, you strike me as an individual that is not out to benefit themselves. You know what I mean? With something so groundbreaking, you know, like I'm about to revolutionize the industry I'm in it to make money. You don't strike me as the type that is, there to do that. You strike me as the individual that is like, I see where this can do good.
Yep.
And
Yes.
I'm going to use it for that.
Julian, I credit. I've said it before on the show, and I know my listeners and stuff like that have heard, and I know these guys have heard it too. Like, I think you're, even Luis, I know we've talked about this. We think you're such a beautiful mind, and like you are so going places, even at such a young age. Like the way you keep at it and the way you're continuing with it, man. Like, 10 years from now, you're gonna be the face of this kind of stuff, man. Like I really see it, to be real. Like,
yeah, man. And I don't want to see us as like, we might be a small show. If anything, we want to see, I would like to see myself as like a motivation to keep you going, man.
Yeah, man.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's something I want to say because sometimes people might look at somebody like me and feel like, like maybe like somebody, if you're doing something like a podcast or something, that may not be as revolutionary, that it's not like aiding that. But think about it like this, right? Somebody like me, when I'm not working on my stuff, I want entertainment. I want to listen to things. I need advice from people. And I go to things like podcasts like this, you know what I'm saying, to get that type of stuff. So it's like, in a way, these types of things are inspiring the next me's, the next inventors, because they need a source of positive, real media to consume, when they're not working on their craft.
That's right. And I keep telling people all the time that this kind of stuff, or podcasts and stuff, this is the revolution that won't be televised. You know what I'm saying? Like this is where media is headed anyway. Just like with what you're doing, we're all trying to take this stuff back into our own hands and do our things our way. And I talk to a lot of people that do actually check out our show, which I think is pretty awesome. And there are people that do listen regularly, even in Canada and Australia, and like it's amazing that they're going to hear you too, and they're going to get a feel for this kind of stuff as well, man. And
exactly,
that's where I think it's important, is for all of us little guys to be banding together like this to change the world. That's the only way we're going to change it, is by doing this together, man. Like, and that's beautiful. I love the way you look at it, and I'm on back Bandit there 100%, man. Like you have come up with this, and you're not shy about holding it back. You're not concerned about, being the next Stanley Meyer. You're more of, I want to do this to not only help humanity, maybe put a few bucks in my pocket, because we all got to do that. Let's be real. But you want to take us to the next step, and with all the great things and all the great people that I've already talked to and the things we've already seen, like I think this is a key factor in a lot of it that people have been missing, that they don't even realize they've been missing. And I feel honored to have you on in these stages while you're building it up. And I look forward to in the future being able to actually continue up with you, man. I love having you on, and I want to be with you every step of the way, man. Any chance that I get, that I see you working on this stuff, because I think that the more people that we can show this to, the more people that will get on board, and you can have your Mark 5, 6, 7, 8 even. You know what I mean? Like let's get it done. Let's help this man help the world, because that's exactly what he's doing.
Exactly. And you know what? In doing this is a part of history now forever. These podcasts, people will come back like 5-10 years later to look back at where this project started.
Early Julian.
Like, look at these guys. Look at these guys that's been supporting him. Let's go check them out, because they were supporting him since day one. They saw the vision. You know what I'm saying? This is history right here. Really.
It is, man.
So yeah, absolutely. And when it comes down to ultimately, because it seems that people are able to just tell my intentions are so pure. It was because, truthfully, what really kickstarted me working on this was in 2020, when I read an article that said that, it was that year alone, COVID just started. They said like 4.6 billion masks were in the ocean. When I saw that, I'm like, I'm doing something about it. I'm tired of sitting here looking at that, period. We're done.
Well, I actually seen where there's a neat little story on your website about how it all kind of started with a hand injury, is the way you put it.
Yeah. So yeah, what happened with that was in my senior year of high school, I was in welding class, and then I had this he was a buddy of mine, and he was playing around with a knife in the middle of class, and he cut my thumb here. You can't really see it on camera, but I have the scar there. Yeah, there we go.
We can see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it ended up severing my tendon, so I couldn't move my thumb at all. I had to get surgery for it, and even after surgery, my thumb was in a splint for months. I couldn't do anything, and I was in the middle of welding class too. I had to stop welding, and I've always been a very physical person, building things my whole life. I used to build Lego blocks, all this. So when I couldn't use my hands for once, the first time in my life, it put me into a deep depression, and all I could do were a couple things, and one of the main things I could do was research into what I wanted to do next. And in that, I was able to find this process and find, on the deepest corners of the internet, the person in like the middle of freaking Russia building one in their basement or some random shit, And then I was like, okay. So as soon as my hand was healed, I built my first one. And, that's what really kicked it off.
There was actually one in Ukraine that Vladimir sent me that built a reactor as well. You might have seen that one too.
Maybe, I looked up everything.
Because I think that video was from 2018. So I'm like, he might have seen that one as well. Because I don't know if you want to talk about what you thought about that project, but if you want to talk about that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Today. Let's talk about that. Yeah.
Go for it. Bring it up.
So Luis has actually, you know what? You want to start it, Luis, because you kind of knew them before I knew them.
Sure. So I've been working with a nonprofit, and this nonprofit has a very good goal. They've been working with bringing supplies and helping people of Ukraine how best they can. And it's not an easy task. It takes a lot of work to get supplies and get everything going. So they've been working on different things as they can, and they're always looking for different ways to create energy. So the winter is coming. So I was talking to them saying, hey, I mentioned them to about your project before, and then I mentioned it again because really it's coming down to, it's going to be more crucial than ever to have energy. So the company is R3UA, and R3UA, like, their goal is to just bring resources and options to Ukraine, and hopefully they will have somebody that has the know-how and competency to create a non-electric version of what he's working on. Now, I mean, I don't know if you want to go into what you've been working on, but a non-electric version, I saw it, at least the initial framework, and I'm like, wow. It doesn't look easy to build though, but it's buildable. It's definitely buildable for sure. And yeah, Julian.
Yeah. So yeah, pretty much what it's going to come down to is, I call it a crisis pyrolysis reactor, a reactor that can run in, crisis conditions, no electricity, nothing. Everything has to be done manually, hand cranked and all that. So, the idea is, they put one of these in an area in Ukraine where they need fuel, like they need oil or they need natural gas fuel, and they have a lot of rubbish, right? So what's going to happen is they're going to load it up with wood or whatever can burn that will be under the reactor, and that's going to provide the heat to what they put inside. Let's say they put in plastic or tires, right? That heat is going to break it down, turn it into the oil, turn it into the carbon. That carbon is going to be cycled back through to the fire, so then that'll keep the fire self-sustaining, and then the that's a good picture. Yeah, and then the gas will be used to distill the oil products. So that's the design. In fact, actually, I don't know if I can even show it on here. Am I able to, Luis?
You can host controls. Yes, he can pass you host controls.
Yeah.
And I don't think there should be any issues. I mean,
okay, yeah, I was just wondering if that was like a legal thing with them.
There you go. Share with
No, I mean, we don't have any agreements of any kind.
Okay.
Any kinds. You have
sharing's up, so you can share.
Okay. Yeah, let me go ahead.
At the end of the day, you're the one offering to help them as best you can. I even shared like the link. I mean, there's no secret. They've been shipping out millions of calories of food. They've been feeding up, I think, 10,000 people a month.
Dang.
So
They're doing
they're working as best they can, however they can.
Yeah, they're doing.
And now they're working with a person that's investing a lot in Ukraine. And it's like he does. He works in the furniture space, but he's worked in a lot of conflict zones, and he's working to try to get people to invest in Ukraine.
So can everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay, yes. So this is the crisis pyrolysis reactor. So let me go over to this next slide here because this explains everything. So the primary reactor is where underneath this feed hopper here, and that's where the actual material will be fed in. That's going to be turned into fuel, and then under it we have these hand cranks to rotate the blades on the inside, and these blades are for agitation to allow the material to be moved, and also to increase the heat coverage of the material that's in there. And then under that we have the fire feed, I call it, and that's where you're going to load in whatever's going to burn to provide the heat to the reactor. And I'll go back to this slide and show the products we get out are flammable gas, fuel oil, and carbon and coal. And this was designed to be as efficient as it can be with a flame, to where the carbon product, as I told you guys about, that carbon product is going to come down into these valves at the end, and it will be cycled back into the fire. So that will burn, and then it's going to go, that the gas products will go into a heat exchanger to get the oils out, and then the rest of those gases will be then used for the distiller to refine those oils, because the oils we get out of this process are usually a mix of gasoline, diesel, and jet fuel, and engines need just one or the other. So yeah.
And the jet fuel supports the war effort, so hey, regardless.
But just in general, just that emergency one in general, whether it be war effort or whether it be any other
kerosene
thing.
Kerosene for heat or fuel. Regardless, kerosene is really useful for heat or fuel.
Yeah. I mean, when my time that I did in upstate New York, it was very common for people to have kerosene heaters and stuff for their houses and stuff. Like I'm pretty familiar with that. Like it's just, but just in general, dude, like that right there, just that, I think that is a beautiful step forward, and just another way that you're trying to help change the world. And that
anybody in the EU right now better be watching this before wintertime.
That's right. That's right.
That's the crazy part, Julian, is that you're opening, you're here, but today, and then soon tomorrow, you're going to open people's eyes to the reality that we can convert matter.
That's right.
And convert matter properly with technology that is readily available. We don't need any cutting edge anything.
Yep.
Essentially, anybody just following the proper guidelines and following the proper tech can build this in any country on earth with available parts. And that's where the genius comes in. That it doesn't take anything that's inaccessible to create this.
Exactly, man. That's the most beautiful part about it. On my YouTube channel, like I literally show me building it in my backyard, So it's like, if I could put it in my backyard, imagine what you can do with the proper tools. And
anybody on earth, like well, you need welding access. I mean, what you do, okay, let me go into this. Like, you have certain things that are complicated to get, but in the essence of material science, and like, yes, the glass is kind of hard to get. There are certain metal parts that might be a little hard to get, but steel, like, again, we don't need high technology to
right. And I think that number one thing that shows that is, like when me and Luis initially started talking to the guys, Vladimir, he was telling me how, like, well, it can't run off of electricity, because I was thinking, build a microwave pyrolysis reactor there, but he was like, we don't have electricity, it can't run off of it. And it was so easy to adapt to the design to run off of what they have. You know what I'm saying? So like, that just goes to show this technology's application. It can be adapted to wherever it needs to be used. And it's just a matter of, taking the principles of, okay, we're going to heat this with a fire. We need to make the steel thicker. We need to do this or that, add more insulation. But, it's simple technology.
It is. And it's utilizing so much, and it's producing so much, and it's it's the kind of things that I thrive to look for this show. You know, things that we are going to change tomorrow with, and that's what's going on here. And, you know, for you guys that want to understand some more about this stuff, you know, of course, I'm going to share some links with this episode, but I'm also going to share all of Julian's links because, man, he has got it going on when it comes to where you can find him and stuff like that. Of course, you guys know that he's got a link tree that will bring you right to pretty much everything. You know, and I dig Linktree. It's pretty cool. It'll get you to his website, his YouTube, his Instagram, his Twitter, his GoFundMe, and even his Discord server that he's got going on. And then some of the other links that we've shared here tonight, the exact videos that he's shared, I'm definitely going to make sure that they get out there. You know, and you guys go look into all this stuff. And I feel like if you reach out and ask Julian here a question about something, he's totally going to be like answering your questions, man. Like he's a good guy, man, and he's got it going on when it comes to this. And I as I keep saying tonight, I admire him. I think he's a beautiful mind with a future beyond human capability right now. If you could wrap your head around that, because I know a lot of the things that he's talked about tonight probably went over some folks' heads, but when you really look at it and break it down, man, it's a lot more simple than you think it is. As our good buddy Jody always says, look for that simple answer, because that's where a lot of this lies. And you know, he's found a way to produce something that's a necessity out of something that we've created ourselves in this glorious trash pile that we call the United States. So, you know, it is what it is. So, but you guys know, before I get out of here, I like to go around a little bit. Julian, you got anything last you want to say that you want to plug or put out there before we shut down for the night?
Yeah, I just want to say, if anybody does have a question watching this, DM me on Instagram or email me. I'll be happy to answer. And, you know, as usual, I would like to thank all of you individually, Bandit, Luis, and Jim Bob, yourself, for having me on here. Great times.
Always a pleasure, sir.
Bandit, the pleasure is all ours, man. You know, some episodes we like to talk, we like to just joke around and talk about current events, and these episodes where we can get into actually educating people and learning new stuff ourselves is, you know, it's crucial. Really is.
It is.
Yeah.
Luis, what you got for me, bud?
Matter can neither be created nor destroyed, but transformed. And Julian Brown is here to transform matter. And we should all support the idea of transformation.
Man, I can't. That
beautiful.
That was absolutely beautiful. Well, you guys know I like to end it on a good note too. So, a slice of apple pie is $2 in Jamaica and $3 in the Bahamas, and these are the pie rates of the Caribbean. You guys have a good night.